Is meekness a weakness, or could it be a kind of superpower? Jesus said something about this in his Beatitudes, which some say provide a blueprint for living the Christian life. So let's join a conversation with our Good News team, Lynn Shimatek, Lauren Welch, and John Shimatek.
Our beatitude for today is the third one on the list. Blessed are the meek, they shall inherit the earth. I'm so eager to hear what you two have to say about meek. And what does meek mean to you?
When I hear the word meek, for most of my life, what I thought was someone who was weak, someone who more like a doormat, allowed people to run over them. I didn't think of meek as being anything good. That's the first thing that comes to mind for me.
Lynn, how about you? When you hear the word meek, is that what you think of, or do you have something else?
More meek and mild. Someone that's just, things aren't bothering them. They just let it go and don't say much. And I guess maybe a doormat, maybe someone that just is there but not really present. And what about you?
My initial reaction sounds just like the two of you. I think of somebody I think someone is meek, think that they're passive, they don't want to be noticed, they're fearful in a way. And weak and passive, that's what comes to mind. So that can't be what Jesus meant, can it?
I don't think so. I think Jesus was meek and he was calling his disciples to be meek, which is I believe, to be conscious of their strengths, of their weaknesses, and to know that they can, with God's help, do what they're being called to do. Jesus certainly lived his life following his call, knowing his strength, where he needed help. He called 12 people and then 70 to help with this mission because he knew he couldn't do it all by himself. He needed more people to work with him. And so I think it's in knowing yourself, knowing your strengths. And it's being, I think, the word that we use today that best describes what I believe meek is humility, is not putting your ego forth, but allowing the Spirit to speak through you and in everything you do, if you can do that. Which is hard. I don't think we do it all the time.
I think it is hard. I think it's very hard. What's that country and western song? It's hard to be humble.
Yes,
when you look
yes.
like me, because I'm so handsome. Yeah, all that.
Right.
So would you agree that meek tends to have, for many people, many of us, and myself included, a negative connotation, but maybe humility is not quite so negative?
Yeah, I think that we do like the humility, humble, the humble giant, the person that is capable of tearing you apart, and he turns out to be the hero of the story and that he's so good. So yeah, I think that humble or humility is a better way to say than meek.
And I really like that. Kind of ties in very much to what Lauren said, that I really was, you said that someone who is meek or humble is aware of their strength, which is true. And I think they are aware of the good use they can put their strength to. It's like the humble giant. There's a sweetness there. There's strength that could be destructive, physical strength, but strength, there's more like an inner strength that is more about not being destructive, about being constructive. I thought, Lauren, it was interesting when you're talking about Jesus saying his meekness was recognizing his strength. And I also liked, because I thought, what you going to say about Jesus recognizing his weakness? And you didn't say that. You said he recognized when he needed help. He recognized that he needed others. And maybe that's for us what meekness is, recognizing, being humble enough to know what our strength and power is, and being humble enough to know where we need help, where we need God, where we need other people. We can't do anything alone. The three of us can't do this podcast alone. We need help. We need God to guide us through some of this, and we need each other to offer advice and counsel and content. Yeah.
I think it's interesting in this is that they get to inherit the earth. The meek shall inherit the earth. Now, if you believe in the second coming and all of this, isn't the earth going to be dissolving, or the earth is so transitory?
Yes, so what do you think that could mean, that they're going to inherit the earth? That's great, because we haven't looked necessarily at the other half of these Beatitudes all the time. And to say, for they shall inherit the earth, what does that actually mean? Is that something that sounds positive at all?
Well, I imagine probably it would sound positive, let's say, to someone that has not had a very good life on this earth.
That's a question that comes out of this, is what could that mean? And certainly the literal earth, I really wonder about. It's less attractive today than ever. So it's, who wants to inherit this mess with the climate change and the pollution and all the wars and insurrections and floods and turmoil and all the apocalyptic kind of stuff that was in the Bible happening. So it must mean something else, right?
Might it mean that people who have humility can bring people together, can bring peace among people who are not at peace, bring harmony?
So inherit the earth, but a different kind of earth than we have today. Because if, let's say, everyone were meek, what a different world that would be, and it would be a world worth inheriting. Maybe that's what it means.
Yeah.
And Lauren, you mentioned some episodes in Jesus' life where he was meek, and what are there others that come to mind for anybody?
The one that stands out for me with Jesus is him before Pilate. Jesus, knowing what was going to happen, he didn't debate Pilate. He stood silent before him. He allowed Pilate to tell him who he was, and he said, yeah, you said it, not me. So he knew who he was. He knew who he was in God. And that's the only thing that was important. And what Pilate or the other people were going to do and say, he left the consequences of that in God's hands, or in the people's hands that were going to do it, but in God's hands.
Yeah, and thinking about it, when you described and brought back to mind Jesus standing before Pilate, I thought what was exquisitely true of him, I think he was the example of someone who is self-aware. I think that what meekness means, it could mean, is someone who's meek is extremely self-aware. They are aware of their strengths. They are aware of the areas in their lives where they need some help or improvement. And so maybe if we were rewriting this beatitude today, we'd say, blessed are the self-aware, for they know their strengths and use it well. They know their weaknesses and ask for help when necessary. I like thinking of it that way. It gives a whole different dimension to meek. It's so much more. It's not just wordsmithing it to make it sound positive. That must have been something like that. Must have been Jesus' intent.
Right. I think it's really difficult to become self-aware or conscious of our motives, of what is going on inside of us all the time. I think it's very difficult to become self-aware, to look at ourselves and see ourselves as we are, both our true selves and our shadow selves.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And Lauren, what do you mean by a shadow self?
The false self, the self that we don't want to look at, the things that I'm ashamed of. That's for me, that's the shadow self.
I also think that the thing that Jesus was trying to do with these Beatitudes is to not only to give them a blueprint of how to become Christians and how to live their lives, but also that if you do this, it gives you great comfort. The meek will inherit land. They'll become important, I think. And so it's, in each of the ones has been something that gives you great comfort too. That's one of the things that I think that for me has been so difficult, is with so many times you say, oh, Jesus says, pick up your cross and carry it, or things like that. And I don't want to do that. I want to have a nice, comfortable life. But these are different. They give you comfort. Each thing gives you comfort. And you realize if you are doing good things, it does give you comfort. If you are being meek and you are being these other attributes, it does give you comfort. So it's in this life, and you don't have to wait for the next life.
What I'd like to do is ask our viewers and listeners to consider, what does meekness mean to you? What does it mean to be meek? Does it mean something negative, or can it mean something like self-awareness? And also, secondly, to think of examples either in the Bible, in Jesus' life, or other persons in the Bible, or in your own life in particular, of someone you know, or you yourself, if you've had moments of humility, what that has been like. So that wraps up the Beatitude about being meek, and we're so grateful that you're with us today. Thanks very much for being here.
Thank you, everyone. Take care.
Blessings and peace until we meet again.
This episode on the Beatitudes has been brought to you by Listening for Clues. You can find us at our website, listeningforclues.com, on our YouTube channel, or on just about any audio podcast channel. Hope to see you soon.